Hi guys, what's up? Can you hear me?
Hey Sid, how's it
Hey
going?
Mohit. Doing good, doing good. How are you doing? How's your evening going?
I'm just wrapping up my Friday and starting this session on Discord, so looking forward to that. Just finished my work, my primary work, and my
Awesome.
passion work starts now.
Nice. That's what all of us does on the weekends, I guess.
Yep, exactly. How's it going? How has your day been?
Super busy. I had a shoot in the what do you say afternoon. Besides that, I have had some other works, lots of calls and stuff like that, and finally here I am.
Sorted. I think I was on the same conference room last night. I thought I'll be here for like a good 30, 45 minutes, but then I ended up staying for like almost an hour and a half because of
Yes.
the engagement. I mean, this community, this army never ceases to surprise me.
Same here, man. I've experienced the same thing a couple of times. So what we'll do is let's wait until 7:05, um, until folks join in, and then let's take it forward. Okay.
Sure, sure.
Also, guys, whoever is joining, I'd just like to put a quick disclaimer. We'll be using the main chat as the chat room for this entire session. And whatever questions you have, just put it in the main. If you want us to see a particular thing that you're typing, just put it in the main and then we'll check it out.
I really appreciate the creativity people put in deciding their usernames.
What's your name is just your username is just a name basically, Mohit.
Yeah, because I really want people to find me everywhere. I
Have you ever been a gamer and have you ever had one of those fancy gamer usernames?
Uh, it's like I'm a huge, and a really good, not self-proclaimed, but accomplished FIFA player. Been playing FIFA since 1997
Oh damn,
in
insane, man.
Delhi.
I'd
In
love to
Delhi,
catch up with you and play because that's my favorite game as well.
awesome. So in Delhi, when I was in Delhi, there was a tournament, Legion, if you know, and
Yep, I've heard of it.
they were launching their game, and they were launching. I think Dell was launching Lenovo was launching their gaming pad by the name. The name of the event was Legion, and I participated in the FIFA tournament there, and that was during work. So like I just went out for meetings, and then on my way to meetings I saw an Instagram ad targeting me that do you do you have it in you, or something like do you have it what it takes to be a really good FIFA player. And I clicked on it, and it said the
Mm-hmm.
event is like now. I went, registered. It was free registration. It was in this thing near the airport. I'm forgetting the name. Some city, Aero City. Yes, Aero City. And went there. I played 10 games, and I ended up as the runners up.
Oh damn, that's insane. Man, I'm a little nervous about playing with you.
Yeah, so the current like headphones that I use, these are like pretty fancy Lenovo headphones. Although I only use it for my work purposes, but then these are my earned ones, which I use.
Nice. Always a special feeling to use them, I guess.
Yeah, always.
Awesome. Guys, whoever is here, we're just gonna wait for one more minute. It's just on 7:04 on my clock, and we're just gonna start out. Let me just check the main channel if people have typed something.
I
Can
think Priya.
anyone join this session, or is just it's anyone can join this session, Priya? Let me just type that. Awesome. Awesome. Couple of seconds away, guys. Hang in there. We're getting there.
I think a lot of people now they ask me this question that is this an ad? This Are you doing this to sell your pro league? No, because now I have little bit of time in my hand. So I think a lot of people would have realized this by now. If they haven't, let me put this as a disclaimer. Uh, as Avalon, we don't sell ads. We give value. If you see value, then you pay. If you don't see value, you enjoy the free sessions. We have amazing content for everyone out there. So now that I have time to be on the server, and I absolutely love this community, and that's why I like devoting at least uh, 1 or 2 days of my week where I can devote a nice, good 1 hour in terms of giving value, whatever I've learned in the past 7 years, and what the things that can probably help you accelerate your career. And that's the reason we do these sessions.
Beautiful, man. That's one of the biggest reasons why I enjoy conversing with you. Like we've had, I think, about 1 or 2 sessions where we're just brainstorming, and every single time I have a conversation with you, something really cool comes out of it, and something an angle that I haven't thought about before, or something along those lines just comes out, and I'm always pleasantly surprised by the conversations that I have with you, and I'm so glad that you're spending your time whenever you have these free time in the server, and I'm sure everybody here will come to appreciate that as well.
Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of people who might have joined the server a little later, but I'll just share a very small story here. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
sure, Sid, if you were there or not. So when Varun switched from the Telegram channel to the server, I was one of those people who actually got that. I think some early Avalonian tag was there,
Right. I
and
think OG Avalonian is the tag.
yeah. So that night itself, when he put it on Telegram that guys were shifting to Discord, I had an idea of what Discord was. For a lot of people, it was absolutely new. So I was just hovering around different rooms, and then Varun was there. Like I've known Varun for a while. We used to stay in the same apartment in college, same
Oh,
society.
okay.
So not the same apartment, but same society. We had a lot of mutual friends. I used to
Mm-hmm.
go to his house for parties. He used to come to ours. So I was just hovering around different rooms, and then Varun just asked me, "How's it going?" This, that. And at that moment, he just asked me what my plan was. And I was just about to log off the server to watch the Champions League game. Then he told me,
Okay.
how about you how about you stream that on the server so people can enjoy? I'm like, for sure. Then I streamed that. And as I was leaving the server, calling it a night, I gave him the suggestion that, dude, since a lot of people can talk on the conference room, how about we do live pitches?
Okay. Interesting.
and, and that was the first engaging event I think we had on the server. And since then, it's been no looking back. Everyone has evolved. Everyone is getting so accustomed to the server, and every time I log on now, there are new things coming. So kudos to everyone who's been a part of this.
That sounds like a very lovely entry story of how you discovered this whole platform and this whole community, and now looking back, it's you've come a long way from someone who just stumbled on the server, started by streaming a football match, and finally here you are being an active member in the community. So big cheers to that.
Yep. I think we can start a session now.
Yep, yep. Awesome. So, guys, if you do not know what this session is about, go to the events channel. You'll see a really um, interesting poster that we've made over here, which actually says, "Don't sell me this pen." And there's a picture of Jordan Belfort. I mean, it's actually Leo DiCaprio, but he's playing the character of Jordan Belfort in the movie Wolf of Wall Street, which was one of the many movies which popularized this entire idea of "Don't sell me this pen." And the perfect person to ask this question of why should you not sell me this pen, or why should you sell me this pen, is Mohit. So before we ask the question to Mohit, I'd like to give you a quick intro. Most of you probably here may know him already, but Mohit is a person who studied engineering, and he didn't really like the job that he was in after he finished engineering. But eventually, he discovered a very strong passion and love for sales. He stumbled upon it, and he turned to really love it, and he got very obsessed about it. And eventually, he went on to work with Zomato. He is a person who was who played a very central role in bringing Zomato Gold in India, and also in the Philippines. And after his stint with Zomato, he moved on to this other brand that a lot of you might be aware of, which is called CureFit, one of the most popular fitness brands out there, and that's basically Mohit's experience with sales in a nutshell. And he's headed sales for both of these companies. He's provided them great results. He was also one of the he was also the sales rep in order to close most number of deals with Zomato globally, and that's basically Mohit in a nutshell. Now, Mohit, would you like to add something onto this?
No, I think you've articulated it pretty well, and I have done that a lot of times. So I think people who know me now would have gotten bored hearing my introduction. But yeah, that's about it. I've had so I'll just tell you the reason. Like a lot of people ask me, if you're doing so well in Zomato, why Kyofit? Then if you're doing so well in Kyofit, then why Radius that you're working now? So when I joined Zomato,
Mm-hmm.
my journey, I still joined at a relatively earlier stage. My journey was from a level 50 to level 100 in terms of growing the company, right? Because I
Mm-hmm.
had joined at level 50, then I scaled it up to level 100. When I
Right.
joined Profit, my level was from 10 to 50, little earlier. So, how I'll tell you, because when I was working in Zomato, there were multiple hierarchies. Like I was reporting to the supply head was reporting to the main country head of not country head, the global head for Zomato Gold, and the global head obviously would report to the founder. Then when I moved on to Kyofit, the hierarchy reduced by one. I was reporting to the main Pan India head. I was heading North India. I was reporting to the Pan India head. And he was directly reporting to the founder. Now, when I've come here, I am in Radius. I am setting it from 1 to 10 because we've not yet launched. We were actually researching what should be the launch process. How do we bring about this change in an Indian ecosystem? And that is extremely pivotal or crucial to me to launch or to set up anything. And
Mm-hmm.
those are the reasons, because keeping the money aside, keeping whatever credibility or whatever the brand value these companies have, for my
Mm-hmm.
learning and for my learning curve to not become a little, not plateau it out, for it to be constantly be steep, that those are one of the reasons that I took those decisions in my life. Because for me, learning, I give a huge priority to learning, and then
Mm-hmm.
comes whatever.
So, what were the risks that came in when you were switching from one of these roles to another? Like, for example, when you obviously, firstly, there was this huge amount of risk when you were switching from an engineering based role to a sales based role. But when you were quitting Zomato and when you were deciding to move to CureFit, what was that like, the transition like?
So the riskiest part is, after proving yourself constantly for a period of 4 years, to a stage where the entire Zomato fraternity, and Zomato is a global company, right? It's in
Right.
26 countries. Everyone knows your name because the founder has announced your name in the town halls. The co-founder, who's Gaurav Gupta, I had photos with him. He had particularly raised my name in a lot of things. So everyone knew who I was, and everyone who knew about Zomato Gold obviously had an idea that this guy is good. So whenever I used to have those conversations, I could see that respect being reciprocated. That whatever this guy is saying, he comes with a valid experience. So basically, if I had to tell you, like in any sports team, right? If
Mm-hmm.
you're constantly performing, if you have, especially in football, if you're a high scorer, high assist, people respect you. Then all of a sudden, if you change a club, right?
Right.
So then you have to start proving yourself again,
Right. Right.
which,
Makes total sense.
because I knew about my capabilities. I had immense confidence in what I bring to the table.
Mm-hmm.
But then I had to bring about the same change of perception to everyone I was interacting with. And I had a brand name associated with me. Everyone would know, okay, ye Zomato se aaya hai. He has come from
Right,
Zomato.
right. So there
So
would
they,
already be like a set expectation on, there would be a set image ki, okay, this guy would actually be really amazing at what he does. And you kind of had that thing to, you had that a little bit of pressure to live up to that.
and overachieve that, because when my targets were being set, my targets were not being set as to how I've performed in this company, but because of the brand value that I come with. And which was one of the hardest part. But again, I had to justify my job, I had to justify my salary, I had to justify my responsibilities. And I had a very crucial framework that I had in mind in terms of how I like my processes to be, how I like my things to be, how I like my people who report to me, how I expect them to behave. And the earlier you set those processes, you set those expectations, the easier things get for you. Rather than waiting until things start falling apart and then you start troubleshooting. So here a preemptive approach to actually be a visionary, see where all things can break apart, and then act preemptively. That is something which really helped me. That was from a my brand value or my credibility point of view. Then
Mm-hmm.
comes a new region point of view. Like I'd worked across India, in Bangalore, in Nagpur, Kochi, Hyderabad, then Philippines. Then I moved to Delhi. Now Delhi was an all new geography for me. So imagine going and selling in a region where you have absolutely zero network.
Mm-hmm.
So people were interacting with me for the first time. They didn't know who I was. They didn't know where I came from. For them, I was just like a representative of Kyofit, or the guy who's heading business for Kyofit. So I had to start nurturing, building those relationships from scratch. And that is something which I absolutely love, because whoever I speak to, I have this one habit that I have to make the maximum sense. And if people realize that the other guy is making sense, they will give you the desired respect that you deserve.
Right, right. Understood, understood. The football example that you gave over here, I think, serves as a perfect analogy to this. I mean, especially for someone who watches football a lot over here.
I mean, imagine what happened to Torres when he moved from Liverpool to Chelsea.
Chelsea,
What
yeah.
is happening to Eden Hazard when he moved from Chelsea to Madrid? No one gives him the same respect now. He was one of the best players in the world a couple of seasons, 3 seasons back. Now
Correct.
he's finding it hard to maintain a strong starting position in Madrid, and that's how things change, and that's how people change.
Right, right. Got it, got it. So, so far we've spoken about your entry into sales, your background with sales, and a few of the challenges that you've, what do you say, faced in sales. So, with all the experience that you have, so when I think of sales, when somebody actually tells me sales, I actually think of the first idea that comes to my mind is someone who's really good at talking to people, someone who's really good at convincing people about things. And one of the classic examples that we've had time and time and again, which also happens to be the topic of this entire session, is sell me this pen. So, can you break down what that's about? I mean, do you think if I go to an interview and if I were asked, sell me this pen, are they going to test me on whether I'm able to sell this pen, or is there an underlying motive to that which has nothing to do with if I'm able to sell it?
So the eventual goal, right? Now I'll use a sentence here, and something that I really like, and it's very cliched. I like talking in quotes. So if I always think that someone's recording me or someone's writing my quotes down, and that's what I do on my Instagram as well. I talk in terms of quotes. So whenever someone asks me that, A, if they ask me to sell this particular pen in an interview, what are they actually expecting? So what I tell them is, you need to disassociate yourself from the result and associate yourself to the process.
Mm-hmm.
Now I would repeat this, and I would just request people to think about it very intensely or very deeply. Whenever it's on feedback, or it's about when they ask you to do something, most of the people, what they expect is, they want to know the process that you want. That's why you need to associate yourself to the process and disassociate yourself from the result. Because the more you think about the result, the sooner you'd want to get there. And then you keep sounding as desperate. So when someone asks you that, sell me this pen, they will judge you. What is your approach? How are you? How are you actually approaching the entire pitch? What sort of questions are you asking? Are you making sense? And eventually, if you are able to get their buy-in, now there are multiple scenarios, right? A, that you've the entire process has been followed so well that they agree that yes, you make a lot of sense, and I wouldn't mind buying a pen from you. Then they would
Right.
say, no, I don't want to buy a pen. Then you ask follow-up questions. Is it a reason why you're not interested in buying a pen? So no is not the end goal, right? No
Right.
is no is to figure out as to why. And until and
Mm-hmm.
unless they consider you smart enough to tell you or entertain your why. And
Okay.
that is something that they check. Just imagine if someone calls you to sell you a credit card, right? Or these
Mm-hmm.
idle people keep calling you.
Yep,
And
happens all the time.
I don't think anyone entertains them for more than 30-40 seconds.
Correct.
But if they're able to reel you in a good conversation, and after that conversation for 30-40 seconds, you figure out ki yaar, this guy is good, ये बंदा तो अच्छा है, and then he will tell you कि I totally think that this plan, because I've seen your usage, you've been paying $600 daily. I would suggest use this plan. You'll only have to pay $499. But tell
Right.
me, why would you want to pay extra and not buy this? Okay, if someone is trying to actually help you, then you will give him a chance or give her a chance and
Right.
listen them to till the end, right? And that's what really matters in a pitch as well. A, for how long can you keep the
Mm-hmm.
conversation going? And again, there are a couple of hacks to it. What I do is, a lot of people, when I say you need to ask the right questions, a lot of people just ask open-ended questions. I mean, if I'm meeting someone for the first time, and like imagine we're talking for the first time, and I ask you, so Sid, how's life? Like, this is the worst question. I mean, why would a person who's meeting or talking for the first time would describe his life to someone else? Like, time is
Right.
of the essence. I need to respect your time. I need to get to the point. And if I ask such a subjective question, they'll be like, oh, it's fine. And once you get the first monosyllable right, you set the tone for
Uh-huh.
the meeting. That all the answers after this will be monosyllables, and this is not going to be a great pitch. So, what I do is I follow like a tip. I give them a closed ended fact and asked an open-ended question. Then again, I give them a closed-ended fact. I give them a open-ended question. Now, what do I
Right.
actually mean by that? Ki, for example, that life has been really, really tough in the times of COVID. Everyone's been working from home. But Sid, how has working from home been for you? A
Okay.
close-ended fact followed by
Mm-hmm.
an open-ended question. So in this process, I'm setting the context and then asking the question rather than just leaving the question out there in the open.
Right. Right.
So I think these are a couple of tricks which really helps in an interview when you ask a question and you set the context at the same time. And while that pitch, you always have the listener or the buyer in your grip, under your control. And as long as you have them under your control, they are listening. That means they're interested in buying. You just have to keep them interested. They will automatically ask you that, okay, what will it take for me to purchase this process? But the moment you lose them, then you will see them making you digress from the topic or talking about something else or asking you just to fuck off in the plain simplest terms.
Right, right, right. So basically, the entire idea or activity of asking to sell me this pen is basically a way to see your approach to sales rather than your ability to sell something. I mean, which again is your approach to sales, right?
Yeah, approach to sales rather than the outcome.
Correct. Got it. Got it. Okay, so from that, so a lot of you here, this whole session was a little, what do you say, impromptu, and it actually came from an experiment. So Abhinav had put up a story on his Instagram 2 days back asking a question whether um, people think if sales has something to do with call centers or not sales has something to do, or the question went something along the lines of is sales limited to being punching bags at call centers? Because a lot of times sales is also associated to that. Sales is also associated to salesmen who's coming at your front doors or cold calling you in order to pitch something, and it has a dirty reputation because of these kind of things. And this is another thing that I'd like to demystify over here. And one of the things that actually was quite unexpected was that a lot of people answered his question sticker saying that they do think that sales is a very call center oriented job or a salesperson oriented job wherein you do door to door selling or you do cold calling and things like that. So, Mohit, the question over here is number one, is that actually true? And number two, if it's not true, what role do call centers and salespeople actually play in the entire spectrum of sales, and what are the other areas that are there which we are not aware of? Most people are not aware of here.
So again, so let me break this question into different parts. The first part of the question is what kind of sales exist. Correct. So there is obviously call center sales. Now here the targets are set as per a lot or a huge number of cold calls, right? Like, I mean, if
Right.
someone from an Airtel is calling, they need to do like 300 calls per day, and those are the metrics that they are measured on in terms of reaching out their entire audience and just communicating the message. Sometimes you would
Right.
just get a call stating that we have a new offer on Airtel DTH, and since you're using it, would you be interested?
Right.
So no hard selling here. It's a very simple question, and if they are not interested, they move on. Like, because they have 299 more calls to do, and those are the metrics set for them. Then obviously there's door-to-door selling. Now here it requires a little more skill. So let me classify this into three kinds of selling. Okay, the
Okay.
first is direct selling. Direct selling is you pick up the phone and you start pitching. Now, why would you start pitching and why would you not follow the entire process that I stress on so much? Because you have 400 other calls to make. So if you spend more than 1 to 3 minutes talking about here and there stuff, you would miss out on your daily targets of the number of calls. Okay, which is called direct selling, and the value associated to direct selling is usually low. It's called low ticket sales because 300 400 bucks you will buy a new plan or you will get extra channels on your Airtel DTH, right? Very low value. Now we move on to something called as solution selling. Solution selling is less number of activity metrics. Let's say you have to do 30, 40, 50 cold calls, and the value that you're selling is, let's say, around the range of 5,000 to 10,000. That is the value you're expecting. Now in this case, you start talking, you figure out the pain point. As soon as you figure out the pain point, you pitch. Like,
Right.
if I'm selling an iPhone, do you have an iPhone? No. Have you heard of Apple? Yes. And do you have an Android? Yes. And then I figured out the pain point, right? They use Android, they don't have an Apple. I will pitch that Apple has this particular offer XYZ. This is a very, very basic example for you to understand what is a pain point. A pain point here is someone who doesn't have Apple and I want to sell them an Apple product. Okay, this is called solution selling. The moment you figure out a pain point, you bombard them with the solution that this is your problem, this is the solution. What do you think? Do you want to take the solution at a minimal cost or whatever cost I'm pitching? And that's how the deal is closed. Now, as we move up, right now we're talking about sales reps or account executives or sales managers, where they're selling product worth like 1,000 USDs, like within the range of lakh and upwards, where it's a high value ticket and they need some time, because in a minute I cannot convince someone to pay a lakh, right? How will they trust me? So here, what happens? You have to build your credibility. And now imagine, I'll give you example of an onion, right? Now, if the prospect is an onion and you cut it right from the center and you start cutting it, that means you start pitching, you will start tearing up. So what you need to do with an onion is you start peeling it one by one. Now let me demystify this. You
Okay.
pick up the phone, you call the customer, you reel them into a good conversation. Now 1 minute or 2 minutes into the conversation, you have figured out the pain point. Now a lot
Right.
of people, the moment they see the pain point, their brain compels them to pitch. That I have
Right.
seen the pain
Right.
point. Yes, I figured out the pain point. Let's pitch.
Right.
Now, here is where you need to control the urge. What I would suggest is this is called as consultative selling. Like, consultation by definition is consulting someone or helping someone, right? So once you figure out the pain point, you don't pitch. You have another conversation, and this conversation could be about a client. Let's say if I'm talking to Sid, I've figured out the pain point. Rather than pitching at that moment, oh, you know what? I spoke to Varun a week back and he had a similar problem. So we worked together, and this is how we solved the problem. These were the efforts we took, these were the tasks in hand, these sort of actions we took, and eventually we came to a conclusion that the results that both of us got by working together were quite satisfactory. Now I've given them a case study. Once they acknowledge the case study, or once they acknowledge your credibility, then you start talking about the problem again, and then you bring them back to the pain point, and then you pitch. So the
Okay.
so the process for all these three kinds of selling is different, and there are different kinds of selling. So you will encounter people who are selling 300 400 calls, or who are making 300 400 calls, and they might sound as the call center guys. Yes, it is stressful,
Right.
but that is what life it is. They get paid for it, and their metrics are to do 200 300 calls. People
Right. It's
work
a
as per
very
their
quantity based metric that they're being measured under.
exactly. Now the second part of your question, that uh, most of the salespeople are considered as punching bags.
Mm-hmm.
Now let me tell you, there are two kinds of salespeople, right?
Mm-hmm.
One, who are punching bags. Now, if you imagine what a punching bag looks like, you keep punching them, and it keeps coming back, right?
Right.
It keeps coming back. So that's what happens. What they do is they keep absorbing. If the client abuses them, they will not take a back seat. They will keep coming back, and they have a lot of resilience. Then once you go up the ladder, right, when I'm talking about a high value ticket, now these salespeople, they their fuel is their ego. If someone says like salespeople don't have ego, I wouldn't agree to them, because
Right.
here, instead of punching bags, these salespeople are mirrors. Now, what do I mean by that? Whatever a client tells them, right, they
Mm-hmm.
reflect the same thing back in a way that the client will understand.
Right.
And
Okay.
if you try to break a mirror, only the client will bleed. And the client acknowledges that I cannot break this guy because he's quite crucial to our goals. Now it's not his goals, right? Because he's talking to a company which is helping him grow, so it becomes our goals. They are
Mm-hmm.
working together. The sales guy is not working for the client, they're working together to achieve a mutual goal. So whatever the client says, something very informative or something really consultative comes back, which is nothing but like a reflection of a mirror. So to summarize this, there are salespeople who are punching bags, and there are salespeople who are mirrors. So you need to figure out where you lie, depending on your skill, depending on your resilience, depending on your intellect. And once you figure out that this is the kind of salesperson I want to be, you will never have a perception of salespeople being punching bags. Or if you are a punching bag, then you should aspire to become a mirror.
Right. That's a very interesting way of looking at, especially the first kind of salespeople that you actually spoke about. So, is there a special kind of person with certain characteristic traits that it takes to become the first kind, the punching bag kinds, or the
This
mirror kind, if you want to call it that way?
so it happens with time. It doesn't happen overnight, and it happens with how or how sooner you climb the ladder, right? Because let's say a guy who's cold calling or selling something very small, his target audience itself is just a normal guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
We call it the average common guy. They don't
Right.
have a lot of things to add. Now, as and when you start climbing up the ladder, the quality of conversations you'll have will increase with the quality of people you interact with. Then you will start speaking to managers. Then eventually, if you find success, you will climb up the ladder. You'll talk to VPs, you'll talk to AVPs, and eventually you'll reach a position where you'll be sitting in a conference room, and you'll be pitching to CEOs and founders. The reason why you'll be pitching to CEOs and founders, because at that moment you've collected enough intellect, you've connected enough experience to represent yourself in front of that cream crowd, like the top 1% population of the world. And
Right.
once you reach that, gradually you will see uh, that change inside you, that from a punching bag when you started sales like 4 5 6 years back, now you're gradually transitioning into being a mirror.
Right. And have you seen that kind of a transition in your own experience as as a sales rep?
Oh yes, absolutely. So like when my first month in sales was absolute, it was a disaster. Like I didn't know what I was doing. I thought that I'm not cut out for this. I was just replicating what I was trained. So
Right.
Obviously there is a rigorous training which every salesperson goes through. They train you on the very basic principles, nothing too fancy. The training itself lasts for 2 to 3 days, and then they sell you. Then they send you, not sell you. Then they send, then they then they send you on the field to figure out your stuff. So that
Right.
first month on the field, right? I think because as an engineer, right, we are used to following the instructions. Like if you
Right.
teach me something, I will apply that learning. And I was doing the exact same thing. Whatever I was taught, I was just going out in the field and vomiting that. Then
Mm-hmm.
I took a step back and I'm like, why am I doing this? What am I doing? I'm smarter than this. I need to have a new process. Then I started experimenting. Then I started documenting each and everything that I did on the field and tried to figure out a pattern. And only so again, this is something that I follow. It's again a philosophical thing that only when you're surrounded by chaos, right, you will have
Mm-hmm.
the vision to find a pattern which will lead you to finding peace. If you're always chilling, you think life's good, it's peaceful, I don't need to do. But if you're surrounded with chaos and mayhem and you know, tremendous amounts of stress, you will
Mm-hmm.
figure out a proper solution to your problem, right? But if I don't, if you
Right.
if you can't even identify the problem, life's good, life's chill, life's peaceful. And that's what happened with me in the first month. My life was extremely stressful and I didn't know what I was doing. Then I started putting my engineering brain into it, started recording a lot of things, experimenting, exploring newer things. And then eventually I was able to figure out a pattern that by the third and fourth month, I found it relatively very, very easy to achieve my targets. And more than that, I was helping my friends achieve theirs. Like we were doing tag team meetings, I would go with them because my targets were done. And so yeah, that's how I evolved into the person that I am.
Right. So literally, you uh, used all this chaos as a catalyst for your growth, and you found a completely different approach of looking at it, and then eventually you ended up doing super well, as you say it.
Not for me, it's for you, it's for everyone. Like tomorrow said, if I tell you that by Monday there are 10 videos that I need, Varun comes and tells you that there are 10 videos that he needs, else you're fucking fired. You will
Right.
forget about your Friday, Saturday, Sunday plans. You will think your life is a mayhem, and
Yes.
but you will figure out a way to give him that 10 videos.
Right. Right. True.
So
True.
so yeah, that's how life is.
True. Very true. This actually reminds me of our video editor over here. His name is Martin. Um, Warren didn't tell him that he's going to get fired or something, but he's always overloaded with a lot of video work. But eventually, right now, he's somehow managed to find a pattern in order to manage all the things, and he's able to manage things better. So that's another example that sort of I can give you from the Avalon team over here with the same analogy.
For sure, yes.
Awesome. Okay, so now since we've gotten into different types of sales and we've kind of demystified that, one really great insight that I got from this is I used to sort of look at these sales call center jobs as something that I don't want to do, especially because of the way people are treated over there. But then you had an interesting point wherein if you have the right attitude and if you can mirror and if you're still aligned to your goals, you can sort of look at it in a completely different way, and you can even learn to enjoy it over a period of time, which was an interesting perspective shift that occurred. Now, since we've explored what basic types of sales is, can you give me a few? So you worked at Zomato and QFit, which are basically large organizations. They're unicorns over here in the country. And can you give me an insight on how sales work in such top countries, especially when you've held a position like the head of sales? What was your life like? What was your daily life like? What were the things that you had to do? What were the targets that you had to achieve? Just to get a high level idea of what it's like to step into your shoes for a day.
Sure. So again, I will try to answer this question in multiple parts. First, as an individual contributor, because a lot of people who are starting out in sales. So uh, I will share a secret also with you what I used to do. I hope no one from my previous company is hearing it. So first, I'll describe you how a day in my life was. We used to reach office by 9:30, and to set the tone right, the moment we would enter, we would socialize for 10-15 minutes. Like we would just, what did you do last night? Like a lot random chit chatting, a lot of gossips. Okay. And once we were guilty enough that okay, we wasted enough time, like 10-15 minutes, then we would plan our POA. POA is nothing but plan of action for the day. We would write
Right.
down that these are the set of meetings, these are the set of calls we'll do. We'll update our sheets because documentation is a key part of every salesperson's life. We would
Yes,
document
you
as to
keep
what
repeating this point over and over again in every single call that we have, and I think it is something very hardwired into your brain that documentation is very, very important.
cannot stress is more like you need to,
Yep.
because we overestimate our brain. Like there are so many things which are going on that it's very possible for you to forget. But if you write things
Right.
down, then your fingers, right? Something called as muscle memory.
Mm-hmm.
So once you write things down, there are more chances of you remembering it. It's a proven fact. But anyway, not going to debate on that. So we used to send out our POA, our plan of action. Then by 10:30, 11, uh, we would have made enough number of calls to set at least 3 to 4 meetings for the day. And obviously this totally depends on the initial lead pool that you get. And you need, before our cycle used to start, our cycle used to be 15 days. So
Okay.
before our cycle used to start, we would get enough leads. And once you have those leads, you need to use those leads very, very judiciously.
Mm-hmm.
And every day we planned our meetings in such a way that in that one particular area we would have 3 to 4 meetings. And why 3 to 4 meetings? Because one or the two business owners would usually can one of the meetings. He wouldn't make it on time, or then, because for them it wasn't a priority. For us, it was a lead who had called us, but for them it's not a priority. So every other day, one or the other meeting would get cancelled. We would do those meetings, and by the end, like we would obviously eat on the road itself. If you had a car, then commuting would be an issue in Bangalore. I had a bike, so I found it relatively easier. And not really proud of it, but you've seen those bikers, right, who would like slither away from the sides and
Right,
ride
right.
on the footpath. So I was one of them for a while. Not
Very
really.
interesting how all these minute details like transportation and all can actually enhance your productivity.
Like in Bangalore, in a city like Bangalore, it
Yes.
absolutely does. So I used to do my 3 to 4 meetings, get done by 6 to 7 p.m., send out my DSR. DSR was my daily sales report. What are the sort of meetings that I've done? What were the major points of discussion? Then project that as to when it would close. And that's how I would summarize the life of a salesperson across the entire day. And after 7-8, you need to like de-stress. So I would meet my friends. I would ram them in FIFA. I would actually show them who the best player is, and then I would have a very, very peaceful sleep. So yeah, that was my life as a salesperson. Uh, Less ownership, because my ownership was only subjected to my leads and my own targets. Now, this only lasted for a year and a half, because since I was easily achieving my targets, I was one of the early uh, folks who was given a team. I was given a team of 8 people, and I was supposed to grow the area of South Bangalore. South Bangalore has your Kormangala, JP Nagar, Jayanagar, your Panshankari, entire electronic city, entire that side. That was
Right.
my area in terms to grow. I had a team of 8 people. Now here, I was the one who was supposed to get the POA. So if I wouldn't get the POA in time, I would just haunt them on the WhatsApp group. What is your plan? What is your plan? And for newer folks, in that case, I was doing 5 to 6 meetings in a day. Now, why I was doing meetings? Because as a TL, for newer folks, it became essential for me to tag with them for the first couple of meetings, so they are comfortable. And since each and every lead was important, I wanted to make sure that the lead closes. So in the initial stages, I would tag with them, help them close, and once they were comfortable, I would send them on the field. So once I became a team leader, my work increased exponentially, especially in sales, because I was a manager. I was also helping them with their meetings. I was recording each and every data set that I was getting in terms of their POA, in terms of the projections they had for this cycle, for this month, and for this quarter. And that's how my day was as a TL. That was a team leader. Now, when I became the business head, then again, uh, my physical work reduced because now I was doing less number of physical meetings, and I would only meet the enterprise accounts, like the huge ones, right, like the top 1% restaurants of any city, or
Right,
the top 1% business, because they wouldn't want to entertain a sales manager. Those guys would directly want to speak with the business head, because
right,
that is the stature that they would have. So in that case, like, my mind work would increase a lot. I would have to crunch a lot of data, project the right numbers, figure out performance, train my sales POCs, have a very, very macro as well as a micro view of the entire city, entire business, as well as speak to my country heads, help them project the right number for my city, and eventually work towards like a monthly or a bi-monthly town halls that we used to do, and to give them a clear indication of how my city was. So my in that case, my performance metrics were directly related to how my city was performing. So
right.
that's how the life of a business head was. That's how so over a period of time, again, if I had to summarize this, as in when I grew in stature and designation, my responsibilities increased exponentially. My mind was working at a very, very high capacity, but my body was at a respite, because again, I was getting old also. Now I'm 28, so I can't
Right.
do like 4 or 6 meetings in a day, which I could do when I was 22, 23. So I'm glad that I'm at a stage where I can contribute more, just with the experience and with the intellect that I've acquired over these past years, rather than going door to door and just burning myself out.
Right. So basically, as I understand, as you go up the ladder and as you progress in your career, you um, do less of the executionary process and you do more of the strategy process.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. Pretty much similar to how it works in marketing and
Most
all as well.
in most industries, for that matter.
Yes. Correct. Okay, just give me a sec.
Sure. And just guys, one request: feel free to keep putting your
Yep.
questions in on the main chat, right?
Yes, yes, yeah. I don't see. I see the chat awfully dead today. Usually, it's burning with a lot of questions. So I don't know why you guys are feeling shy, but feel free to pick Mohit's brain. We actually have a dedicated Q&A session coming up really soon. After just one more thing that I want to ask Mohit,
Yeah.
but feel free to put your questions in here. We'll actually be answering to most of them.
So there can be only two possibilities. Either I'm so boring that people have actually slept off, or I'm so captivating that you just forgot that you can also ask questions. So I prefer it to be the latter. So feel free to ask me questions.
I'm
Make use
pretty
of
sure
my
it's the
Zoom.
latter, guys. Do feel
Yes.
free to ask all kind of questions. Doesn't matter if there's no dumb question over here. That's the only rule that we are following. There's no dumb question at all. Feel free to ask anything. All right. Another one final thing that I'd like to touch upon is Mohit. Especially when we had a conversation yesterday, and also earlier when we were brainstorming on certain things while we were on the call, you you what do you say spoke about sales as not just this job. So currently you've spoken about sales as a very career kind of a thing, wherein you had to grow a company's business, you have to set up meetings, you had targets to meet, and so on and so on. But you also speak about sales as a soft skill that you should have in your personality. Like, for example, one really interesting example that you gave me was, um, if you knew your shit with sales, you could actually learn how to negotiate better in your company's appraisal next year. Or if I knew my sales shit really well, maybe I can pitch my next big idea for Avalon to Varun in a much better way. So, can we get into that aspect of sales as well and give a couple of more examples of where folks can actually use sales in their everyday lives?
For sure. So, sales in the most fundamental way is your ability to influence, right?
Correct.
And you're speaking to your parents, to your friends. So, either you're the tone setter or you're the settler.
Mm-hmm.
Correct. Tomorrow, if I'm speaking with my friends and I want to go to Goa, but they want to go to the mountains, if I'm convincing enough, I will ensure that they come to Goa, right?
Yes.
And this is what the power of influence is all about. And influencing exists in each and every aspect of your life. So now the examples that you stated, right? Now I'll share certain stats with you, which I have found over the internet. Most of the people who are oblivious to the basic principles of sales, they've never done sales, they've never been interested in sales, they accept whatever is given to them, as they think that this is a
The
result
hard
of my,
reality.
yeah, this is a result of whatever I've done, and they associate their talent as per the gift they're getting. It's like you're going to a temple and you get the prasad.
Right, right.
Correct. Now, if you're getting prasad, no one will ask more, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they think that this is the best amount, this is what everyone gets, and maybe this is what I'm worthy, or this is what I'm deserving of. But someone who knows his or her worth or value, understands what sales is all about, understands the macro picture, they
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't just accept what they get. They will question first. They will try to associate their talent with the value that they're getting. And if they are satisfied, right, then only they will accept it. But most of the salespeople they're never satisfied. Like they're very inquisitive, they're always
Right.
curious. So
Mm-hmm.
the stat that I came across on the internet, that most of the engineers who end up doing tech jobs, they have the worst appraisal rates. Again, they don't have the worst promotion or designation change percentage. They have the worst appraisal rates. So in each and every company, there are multiple slabs. In most companies, you get appraised between 5% to 15%, depending on your whatever your performance, whatever your manager thinks of you. There are multiple OKRs, there are multiple KRAs associated with it. But once they are deciding your KRAs, and once they're having a discussion on the KRAs, if you're more prepared than your manager. Now again, I was speaking about this last night on this server itself. If you have clearly documented all your achievements very objectively in the past 1 year, and you present them very confidently, in a very influential way, and then you also garnish that with the kind of roadmap that you're setting for your role. That if I am with the company, with the same company, this is what I'm going to do. One, two, 3 points. This is how the company is going to grow using just via my efforts, and this is what the company will be getting just by me being here. Now, here, what I've done is I've pitched my past, I've pitched my future, and
Mm-hmm.
now I'm trying to get results for my present, which is the
Right.
correct appraisal rate. And not a lot of people actually know this process exists also. They speak to the manager sells them. Firstly, they will tell that your performance has been amazing, this, that, but very subjectively. If you notice this, it's very subjective. You've done so much for us, and we're really happy to promote you. And the moment
Right.
they use the word promote, you need to understand promotion is default. Like the company is supposed to promote you year on year, but the main thing lies with the hike, right, with the percentage hike. What is that money that you're getting more in hand? And then they tell you that you're being given a very high 5-6% of increment. And in the tone that they say it, in the way that they say it, the one who's at the receiving end thinks that, oh my god, I had a wonderful year, I got 6%. And they will also tell you that maximum people got 5%, but I'm giving you 6%. But they
Right.
never ask that how many people actually got more than me. Although that's not the right question to ask, but you need to ask what is the maximum. Before you enter the meeting, you need to know what are the slabs. You need to do your research. You need to totally understand what is your upper limit, what is your lower limit, and then you figure out where you actually lie. So that is one aspect you can use definitely sales.
Right. So basically, number one is appraisal.
Yeah. Number two, and the main thing is you selling yourself. What is an interview? Interview is basically you selling your talents, and for the other person to acknowledge and understand that yes, he sold himself or herself well, and now he or she is fit for the desired position.
Right.
Now let me take like a couple of minutes in terms of explaining you how the job market has evolved. Right now, let me take you back almost a century back, when man discovered ships. When they discovered ships, man for the first time realized that this is a job which cannot be done alone. So they need an entire deck, they need a captain, and they need people. So they would actually put out posters which would say that men needed on board, which was like a desperate cry for help, that we need men on board. And it would be very honest. It would say that we'd be off the land for months and months, safe
Mm-hmm.
return is not guaranteed, you might lose your life,
Mm-hmm.
but the rewards are good, like you will get
Right.
food and this. And at that point, since there was no job market, people would readily go. Over a
Right.
period of time, then it gradually evolved to uh, newspaper advertisement where people would ask for talented people. Then, as in when something called as job description came into the picture. This was in 2000s, like late 90s, 2000s. Now, this word, right, job description of each and every job is thrown around by each and every recruiter. But not a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people know, like, what is the history of job description was created as a legal document which
Mm-hmm.
was supposed to be considered as a check measure once you were getting fired. So let's
Okay.
say, Sid, if I'm having this discussion to fire you, then
Mm-hmm.
I will take out that legal document which will state that these are the duties you were supposed to do, and out of these you have not done maximum of the duties. So by
Ah,
that logic, I'm going to fire you. That's
interesting.
how that's how job description was coined. It was actually a legal document. Now what
Right.
now what recruiters do is, before even they know your name, they will send you a job description. Why? Because they want to discourage you from actually applying for the job.
Right. They want to filter out basically.
They want to filter out because the job description today is so complicated that most of the people, by reading job description, figure out, oh, I am not a fit for this. I don't think I am the right fit. I don't think I have the right skill set for this job. And automatically, if you're not driven enough, you won't take the extra step of contacting the recruiter. And subconsciously, in the hindsight, you've been filtered because of your drive.
Right.
So that is the first step of filtration. Once you make it past the first set of filtration, that means you've sold just your name. Let's call it your name. Your name is your name and whatever you've done XYZ in a paper format,
Mm-hmm.
what we call a resume, right?
Right.
Then when you actually reach the interview stage, it's it's a it's a monologue, right? Mostly because they will ask you one question and you'll have to answer
Yes.
that for 3, 4, 5 minutes. You're pitching yourself, right? You're selling yourself. So if you don't have a correct framework, you will get
Right.
confused that what should I say now, or did I choose the right framework, or was I confident enough? There are so many things which are going on in your head while you're in that interview because you're thinking of the end goal. The end goal is, will I get this job or not?
Mm-hmm.
And the more you think about that, the more desperate you sound. The more you think about it, the more desperate you sound. But if you have a very, very clear framework, a process of which is sales is a process, right? I think
Right.
I told you, in that I was talking about that in my video as well, that sales is not just a skill, right? It's a process
Mm-hmm.
which combines multiple skills. So if you're
Right.
aware of what that process is, whatever you've done, right now, you can't change whatever you've done. If you've done X, you can only tell them X, but the way you can tell them how you achieved X is what sales will help you do that.
Right. Right. So it's kind of like storytelling in a way.
Storytelling is one of the skills.
Right. Right. So just wrapping. So, can you suggest one more application where sales can actually become a part of like everyday activity?
It is an everyday activity. I mean, so I'll tell you about the most generic, right? Now, I'm going to quote myself from last night. So it's so top the 1% population, right, in the world,
Mm-hmm.
they speak to influence. They have a clear framework of how sales work. They know what sales work, if not consciously but subconsciously. The other 99% people, they're just speaking to communicate. That give me pen, they will get pen. Give me this, they are not talking to influence. So the more you talk to influence subconsciously, if you can drill that in your head, that whenever I will speak to influence. I will try to help the other person by giving enough value and by always being a better version of myself. That's what sales teaches you, right? That
Right.
process, that way. So you'll automatically see the kind of conversations you're having. They will The quality of those conversations will increase. You will start getting more respect. You will start making more meaningful connections people will start respecting you exponentially. And this all can be achieved if you know how to use the right principle, if you know how to use the principles of sales in a very, very correct way. Now, what sales has taught me, right? uh, I was never like, I would hate monologues. Now I love monologues because I have enough value to provide. So what it has helped me do, rather than focusing on the length of the conversation, now a lot of people focus on the length of the conversation. If you can
Right.
focus on the depth of the conversation,
Mm-hmm.
that's where the real the sales guy comes into the picture. That I can
Right.
make you realize as to what is the exact depth of this conversation. Now, what do I mean by the depth of this conversation? That why are we having this discussion? What are the repercussions of this particular discussion? What will you gain out of this? What will I gain out of this? And I'm not making the conversation lengthy. I'm just making it more informative by just digging deeper into
Right.
it.
Right. Super insightful. So, Mohit, I'd just like to round up the entire conversation that we've had over here, just so that everybody is still on the same page. So, initially, we started out with demystifying this popular thing that we've seen in a lot of movies about selling a pen. And Mohit basically said that it's not about whether you're able to sell it or not, but it's about your approach to sales and how you actually approach this problem that's right in front of you. Then we moved on to demystifying the whole fact about sales. It's not just about call centers and door-to-door selling, but there are three different aspects of sales, and all these different kinds of people actually sell in different ways. And we eventually transitioned into Mohit's personal story on how he started out. At the bottom, and how he climbed the ladder, and he has moved in from a very executionary role wherein he had to physically go to different places, host meetings and all that, to a place where he doesn't really have to do much physical activity but a lot of mental activity. So moving from execution to strategy. And finally, we touched upon a couple of areas wherein you can actually use sales in your everyday life. And some of these examples were using it in appraisal. I learned an interesting fact that job descriptions were actually created to fire people. And
Now it's used to
yep.
hire people.
Yeah, it's funny how the whole turnover actually happened. And yep, so we explored all these things. And one final thing that I'd like to add on over here is that right from the first time I actually had a conversation with you, Mohit, I've really admired the way you actually look at sales. I've actually since I'm a marketing guy primarily, being linked with salespeople is something that I've had. I've gone through that a lot since the past couple of years, ever since I've been into marketing. But you are you're a very different kind of a salesperson that I've met, because you have a very holistic look on sales rather than particular aspects. I, it won't be wrong for me to say that you actually breathe sales. And I
So
really admire you for that. And this whole conversation was super insightful. And thank you so much for providing all the value that you've been providing over here. And just want to say thank you.
yes, so I'll actually quote one of the clients who, that I think that in my opinion is the best compliment that I've ever gotten. He told me
Okay.
that, Mohit, you're the least salesy sales guy I've ever met.
Right. Yeah, I totally agree.
And when he said that, I'm like, thank you so much. That means a lot. Yes.
I can imagine what that must feel, especially if you are a sales guy.
Yep. Yep.
Awesome, awesome. So now we'll be moving to the final round. Mohit, you can be here for like 15 minutes, 20 minutes. How long can you be here for?
As long as it takes. Like I had given myself like a cap of 8:30, but then let's see how it goes. So I'll be around. I think there is one more priority speaker here, and he mentioned that he wanted to unmute himself for
Yep, yep.
a question.
So before we go into that, I'd just like to bring up Navina over here. She's also in the chat. I have to rush right now because I have a call at 8. But Navina will be taking forward the Q&A session.
Sure, sure.
Hey Mohit, what's up? How are
Awesome.
you?
Cheers, Mohit. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Sid.
Bye
Always a
Sid.
Navina. I'm great. Good to have you here. So,
Long time no see. Actually, that's not true. We spoke like yesterday.
yes, yes.
How's everyone else here in the VC? Long time no see.
I think what I'll do, Navina, is I'll start
Yeah.
reading the questions because I'm on the
Main
main.
chat. Yeah, yeah. All right.
So the first question is from Swappy X 27 and
Mm-hmm.
feeling scared, to be honest, as to how long I can keep up the same hustle in my sales, fearing that energy levels go down, etc. They do go down, and you need to figure out how you can climb the ladder, right? So for me, I got to a managerial role very early on in the career, and for most salespeople, right, there are two ways that you can take if you want to grow in your career. One is that money is a huge driving factor. Now, if money is a driving factor, your hustle will never die, because with every sale you will earn more incentives, and you would always want to be that sales guy, an individual contributor. But then, if money is not the driving, it's not the immediate solution to your problem, what you would do is you would digress towards a managerial role. You would have a holistic approach towards sales, and I think, Navina, my voice is echoing, so if you could just
I
uh,
will mute. I will mute.
yeah, yes, awesome. Yeah, so if you want to digress towards a managerial role, what's so the simplest way you can get it, just like a manager asks you, right, every day, that what are you doing, what is your plan. If you can ask similar questions to him or her, that what do you work on, I want to take more interest in understanding what is your work like, what sort of emails do you interact, what sort of sheets do you work on. And the moment you come to a situation where you can handle your as well as your manager's work, people will think you're ready for a managerial role. So that's one piece of advice for you, Swappy, that there are two ways. Choose whatever way would suit you, and stick to that. uh, Next question is from Madhu. Hi, at your current position, how much is marketing role overlapping? So in my sales leader role wasn't, but as a business head role, because I was responsible for entire region, I would often speak with the marketing folks and figure out what were their plans and add my inputs. Obviously, they wouldn't be my direct KRAs. It wouldn't be something that I'll be accountable for. But since it has, like, whatever they do will have an effect on the kind of leads, the kind of overall brand sentiment that we're setting in the market, I would often be involved in those meetings and I would keep adding my insights. Is career change possible with sales? How can I prove that I have those skills? Uh, by going to interviews. Like, if you're able to sell yourself in the interview, they will realize that you're meant for sales, and they will train you. They will give you enough chances to prove. Whoever is hiring you, they will give you enough chances to prove. And if you've done well in your interview, there are chances you do well in your sales. What do you think is the key to grow in SaaS sale? Oh yes, so I've been now I'm also part of SaaS sales right now. So the key to growing fast in a SaaS sale is, so there are two things, right? One is the software which is actually doing its job, which you're selling the software. So along with software, what you need to do is you'll have to have a very clear understanding of the industry. You need to do a lot of research and let the software do its job, because you have created that software which will help the client achieve those results. But what your value inputs are, what your value adds are, in terms of how you can help them grow their business. And it could be anything. It could be changing some processes within the company, or suggesting something that can help them grow their business, or even whenever you meet, every time you meet, you give them valuable insights about how your your experience can actually help them, so that at the same time you are doing your job in terms of helping the business, as well as the software is doing its job of helping the business. And both of them combined is a really good recipe for growth in a SaaS sale ecosystem. Did you follow the OKR model? Yes, we had OKRs in Profit. Also, how is data being worked out? S- How is data being worked out? Did you tweak around with the pipeline, or which module did you go ahead with? So, I'm not sure if I understand this question well. Obviously, I wasn't manipulating data. I had certain targets. I would project that. I would keep a buffer. Having a buffer is really, really important because so if you have that buffer, at least I can achieve not being met. I can get more money, or I can have that buffer in place. So while you're projecting, have a good 10 to 15% buffer. I wouldn't tweak around with the pipeline, but I would always keep replenishing the pipeline. So even if you have like a pipeline that you're working on, let's say you're working on a pipeline of 100, if starting of the quarter your target is to reach out of the 100, every month keep replenishing that pipeline from multiple sources. Don't just be dependent on the pipeline or the lead sheet that you get. What kind of a person is not meant for a sales job? I don't know, to be honest. I don't know. If you've been in sales and something, it's you hate the hustle, you like sitting at your desk. A lot of people like sitting at their desks. They love like 9 to 5, and out of 9 to 5 they just like working for 4 hours, because in a 9 to 5 job also people are working for 4 to 5 hours. They go back to sleep and they like a mundane routine. So yeah, I think that kind of person is not meant for sales. In sales, what I've learned is when people were actually sitting on the desk, I was outside on the field making stories. So if I could start narrating the kind of stories, the kind of clients I've met, the deals I've closed at 2 a.m. at night, those are lovely memories that I have, lovely stories to tell over like a over any day, or for any person who's remotely interested in sales. So I think that is the most exciting part about sales. And if someone enjoys that sort of hustle, that sort of uh, inclination towards trying newer things every day, so that guy is definitely cut out for sales. Are in-person meetings important while selling a product costing 1 to 2 lakh? Uh, in India, I think yes, because now I don't know. Now things have moved to where people prefer remote meetings, and people have gotten used to remote meetings. But before this, definitely yes, because it's very hard to trust someone on the other side of the phone, but it's way easier to trust someone who's sitting right across the table. Digital Chiru, you can, if you have a question, bro, you can just unmute yourself and ask.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, awesome. Hi, Mohit. How are you?
Hey, I'm great. I hope you're also doing well.
Awesome. So, I basically have two questions here. One
Mhm.
is related to the startup that opening that's going to be launched in next 2 weeks. So, I'm
Mhm.
going to take you through on the sales strategy that we have planned for the next 3 months at least. So, I wanted to know your opinion on that.
For
And
sure.
second question is not related to sales, but still, why not give it a shot, kind of. So the first question is, I'll let you know what the business is. So we are digitalizing a traditional boutique for women. In the sense, as we all know, women have different types of cloth that can be stitched, right? So we have built a platform with our own dashboard that has not been done in India, at least to the research extent that I've gone. And anybody can come down to the site, get a customized dress done by their own pick and drop options, and get it stitched, and it is a doorstep delivery service based out of Bangalore for now. And the sales strategy is, as we know that women who are also interested in other services, like for an example, let's say spa or jewelry, artificial jewelry, and so many different divisions like that. What I have in mind is I want to collaborate with all the businesses in Bangalore who are highly targeted for women and give them an opportunity, saying that, see, we all are impacted by COVID and all our businesses are going down. Why don't we just scratch each other's back, right? Because I'm going to get traffic on my site. I'm going to give you another division, another segment just for your business, and I'm going to advertise your business on my site. In return, advertise my business on your offline store, maybe a banner, or maybe a doorstep, some advertisement pamphlet or something. So that's what I have in mind for the sales strategy for the business.
It's a good enough strategy, but it's like something just came while I was listening to you. Something just came to my head that women, right? They're very uh, driven by things which are exclusively for women. Now, what do I mean by that? Any sort of things which you, which says that made by women for women, that strikes a chord with them. If there is a club where they're discussing issues uh, which can help women grow, that resonates with them. So when you're so collaborations, there's nothing better than collaborations. So you're on the right path. But how you can pitch your is that when you're going out, right? So what you're doing is you're making a marketplace for women products. Correct.
Right, as an additional segment.
Huh. So what you tell all the collaborators who'd be interested in collaborating with you, that uh, you want them to figure out or come up with something which is exclusively for women. Because if you're building a marketplace for women and they realize that, oh, it's just like a way of selling, it it
Right.
might it might backfire. But if all of y'all can get together and work towards solving a problem which is a genuine problem, which actually solves the purpose of what women are looking for, and then you can garnish that by saying it's only and only for women, then it automatically starts resonating with them, because they feel inclusive in that brand. They feel that someone's only thinking about them. They feel that yes, since there are prominent brands, and they can just come to your platform and they can get a small taste of each and everything. I think that itself will be a huge hook for them to stick to your brand. So project yourself as a marketplace for women, and associated or sponsored or powered by your particular boutique. Like this is your initiative, so that you get the extra eyeballs, but you're solving a very prominent real life problem.
Right. Yeah, makes sense. Okay, got your point. Another question add on to that. It's not a sales question again. If uh, you don't want to answer it, I'm completely fine with that. We are mostly into tech because 95% of the business sales that will be coming on will be from the online sources like the website and the multiple other sources. So, what exactly should I consider the company as? Is it like a tech e-com company, or is it like an offline company because we are providing to the local demand and local supply services? And the reason for this question is I see that tech companies are valued a lot when it comes to funding, uh, and the non-tech companies are not well looked upon until and unless they are very much profitable to raise funds. So, just for the future viewpoint, what do you think on it?
Uh, I mean, since you're involving tech and if you're selling something, it falls in the larger umbrella of e-commerce, because
Right,
I'm assuming you'll have a payment gateway and people can buy stuff, right?
right,
Yeah, and then depending on your products, so a lot of cool companies, what they're doing is they're also discovering newer industries. Like earlier, I'll give you a very simple example. 10 years back, there was no food tech. There was F&B, there was hospitality, there was service, and a
right,
lot of companies would fall under those umbrellas. Now there is food tech, because Zomato and Swiggy and all these not Uber Eats, they're leveraging tech along with solving the problem of food. Correct. So with your thing as well, feel free to design a new industry if that becomes a USP for you, because eventually for each brand, their sole target is to figure out a strong USP. And if your industry could be a USP, nothing's better than that. Like a tech, like
right,
textile tech. So that also becomes your USP, which you can sell. That we are the first of our kind, or first movers in this particular using tech and textile together, right? So more things to talk about. So feel free to discover industries, but generally, obviously, it will fall under the broader umbrella of retail under e-commerce.
right. Got it. Thank you so much for your time, bro.
Awesome,
Really
awesome.
tough talking to you.
Yes, thank you so much. Now moving on to the next question. Uh, yeah, Neuro curry, yes. What were the moments that made you sure and confident of sales being your next step while switching careers? Did you change careers without having established previous? Yes, I had zero experience in sales, and when I switched from Accenture, so I just wanted to quit Accenture because my ambitions were being crushed there. And I'll actually tell you a story as to why. What was the main reason as to why I quit Accenture? 5 months. So I was working on SAP. I was a developer, SAP developer. I was developing reports for my client in the Netherlands. So out of my team of 30 people, my client used to interact with me, and he used to love interacting with me because I could hold conversations. I could speak to him about multiple things. We would talk about football, and obviously I had learned SAP and I was doing what everyone was doing. Now, 3-4 months down the line, so I was developing close to about 16 to 18 reports in a day, while the other people were developing 6 to 8 reports in a day. Why they were doing that? Because every 2 hours people would need a smoke break, they would need a chai break. Obviously, I thought that I was just out of college. I had all the excitement. I just wanted to work and prove myself. So I didn't want to take smoke breaks. I never used to smoke also, and didn't want to take or just go with them. They would tell me, they would tap on my shoulder, "Ki, let's go, let's go." And in our first town hall meeting, we were sitting across a big conference room, and then the client asked how many reports on an average are we making per day. So from the left it started 5, 6, 7, 7, 6, 6, and when my turn came, I was making like 15 to 18 average reports, but I said 12 because I don't want to undermine everyone else's efforts. And right after that meeting ended, in lunch, people came to me and they told me कि यार हमारी फैमिली है तो तुम थोड़ा आराम से काम करो. Don't work so hard, because if you work hard, then we'll also have to work hard. And anyway, we're getting paid as per the number of hours we put. Because most of the consultation projects, the number of hours, the number of resources you put, you get paid. The client pays you according to that. And I think that moment I realized that this is the first time people are telling me to work less, and that absolutely did not make sense. And that's when I realized that yes, I don't want to be in this place. So as a process of leaving Accenture, I applied for 4 startups, because this is back in 2015, right? The startup ecosystem was booming. There were so many startups coming up, and I applied for 4 startups, and I got through 3 of them. One was an account manager role, one was a content writer role for these no big startups, but normal startups. And then there was Zomato, which was the biggest brand of them all. So I spoke to a couple of friends who had worked with Zomato before, and then I thought I'm pretty young. I was 21, 22. I could afford to take that risk. I'm like, yeah, why not? Let's take that risk and let's see what comes out of it. And even if it doesn't work out, I will bounce back and I will do something which makes me happier later, or which pays my bills later. But at this point, I wanted to take that risk, and that risk turned out to be the best decision of my life. Uh, could you uh done? Do you think being a campus ambassador of some brand in my college can give me exposure to the sales world? For context, in the first year of my engineering, uh, I mean, depends on how many people are you actually having the conversation with. But yes, it can give you at least a kickstart. Definitely yes, because you will be a represent of your college, and in the real world, you're a represent of a company. So there are a lot of overlapping factors here. It's definitely going to help you. No harm in doing that. I love my job as a developer. It'll help with my daily life, corporate life. It will help you understand all the basic principles of sales, which you can apply in your day-to-day communication, in your interactions with your colleagues, with your peers, with your managers, how to be a better version of yourself professionally as well as personally. So, I mean, it's up to you. If you think learning these skills will help you, then this Pro League will be helpful. And you never know, if you're a developer tomorrow, if you have to be if you go on become a CEO or a CTO, you need to know these things. So yeah, I think we're done with questions. If anyone has any more questions, I can take a couple of last 2 3. I have 7 minutes. I'll allot it 8:30 to be my end time here. So last 2 3 questions, anyone wants to share anything valuable, uh we can make you a speaker here. If Navina is here, I'm not sure Navina is here. Oh, Navina is here. Awesome. Navina, you have anything to add? Is there age limit to get a sales job? Not really. For every age, there is a sales job out there. And okay, I really want to grow into corporate strategy and growth. If you can reduce how to make this transition from sales and consultative selling, that would be great. Figure out the roles which would actually put you there. Speak to people, understand their background, understand their transitions, because you can only learn from people who've done that, right? I can give you certain ways, but my answers would be very generic because I have myself not transitioned from a sales to a corporate strategy and growth role. So I don't want to give you any faff or anything which doesn't make sense, but I can give you a process. The process would be figure out uh, people who are actually in the roles that you want to work with, connect with them on LinkedIn, ask them how did they actually get this role, if they had to transition, and if you figure out someone who's transitioned from a sales and consultative selling to a corporate strategy and growth, that's where your answer lies. What sales principles we can use for day-to-day conversations? So effective communication. So there is communication and there's effective communication. So there are two kinds of people in this world: one who listen to speak, and one who listen to respond. So the people who listen to speak, you would have noticed that in your group, in your family, in your whatever. If there is a group of three, four, five people having a conversation, then as soon as your chance comes to speak or to add value or to add your opinion, you will just blabber something which might be totally out of context, because all this while you've just been listening, but in hindsight, you're waiting for your turn. And when your turn comes, you get so excited that you blabber whatever is the first thing that comes to your head. Now, there are the latter set of people who listen to respond. They are effective listeners. They understand what the context of the conversation is, and they make a plan in their head that when their turn comes, they respond as per the context of the conversation, and hence they add value to the conversations. So this is a very, very minute and a basic example of how it actually improves your day-to-day conversations. And obviously there are multiple other skills which are closely related to it. My first sales jobs was at Zomato as a sales manager. That's the uh, lowest designation you can start to work at Zomato. So I became an area sales manager at Zomato in a period of 3 years, and they need close to about 7 years of experience, 6 to 7 years of experience for someone to even apply for that role or become that role. So my last 2 years in Zomato were great. Uh, I jumped designations twice. That means I got promoted twice successfully in 2 years, and that's when I started riding the wave. Right when gold happened, Philippines happened, Hyderabad happened. Then I was riding that wave, and then I wanted to move to a bigger market, and that's how I transitioned to North India through Kyofit. And yeah, oh, amazing session, Mohit. It's good to see you after a long time, but enjoying your tweets these days. Oh, actually, those are not my tweets. So that's a format that I use, but I don't actually tweet it. So it's a surrogate way of uh, uh, deploying my thoughts on Instagram itself. So if you will see my Instagram username just under my name, and the format that I've chosen is actually of a Twitter, so that it appears like it's a tweet because I'm using less characters, but it's actually just a post. So yeah. What five things you teach yourself when you were getting started in sales, if you had the opportunity to try and one one is the I always say that when in any conversations, get in a habit of documenting, get in a habit of writing. It has multiple advantages that you can't even realize right now, but in the future, very, very good habit to have. Uh, then in terms of don't be too hard on yourself, because takes once. Yep. So as I was saying, writing and documenting, and don't be too hard on yourself. And instead of making long-term goals, make short-term goals. I think I'm not sure if these are five things, but these are the top things that come to my are coming to my head right now. So make short-term goals and make a plan to achieve that, rather than making like a 1 year, 2 year, 5 year plan that usually doesn't work out, just like New Year resolutions. So make like 2 months, 3 months, 4 months these sort of plans and figure out a plan as to how or what is the quickest or the shortest or the most efficient way to achieve that. So I think that wraps up the session for today. And for everyone, like if you want to connect with me, I am quite active on Instagram. I reply to all my DMs, so if you might have missed a chance to pose your question here, you can always reach out to me on your Instagram. I make this a habit of replying to everyone. So I hope we are connected through the server as well as through all the social handles that I'm present on. And I keep providing valuable inputs on my Instagram. I post a lot of content related sales, psychology, and philosophy. So if any of these fields make any sense to you or for you, or you just like enjoying these posts, let's connect on Instagram. And thank you so much. You've been a lovely, lovely audience. Always a pleasure being on the server. Thank you so much.